What if every MCU hero woke up tomorrow powerless? Doctor Strange without his magic, Captain America without the super soldier serum, She-Hulk without gamma radiation, Captain Marvel without cosmic energy. Strip away the enhancements, remove the miracles, eliminate the safety nets. Where would these characters end up? Would they still be heroes? Would they still be likable? Would they still be worthy? Because when you remove powers, you remove the illusion, you expose the foundation underneath, and suddenly you're forced to ask a much harder question. Who are these characters when they can't rely on what makes them special? As a genius billionaire playboy philanthropist once said, if you're nothing without the suit, then you shouldn't have it.
If you're nothing without this suit, then you shouldn't have it. Okay?
Today, we're ranking MCU superheroes from worst to best without their powers, starting with the characters who completely fall apart the moment their abilities are removed, and ending with the ones who might actually be more dangerous without them. And before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to Silver Screen Hero for more Marvel and DC deep dives like this. She-Hulk isn't just the weakest MCU hero without powers. She exists in a category of her own. Because when Jennifer Walters loses her abilities, she doesn't simply become less effective, she becomes completely irrelevant to hero work. The problem with She-Hulk isn't intelligence, it isn't personality, and it isn't even competence. Jennifer Walters is clearly intelligent. Becoming a successful defense attorney requires discipline, logic, and mental endurance. She's articulate, she's assertive, she can command a room, but none of that translates into physical survival. Superhero work is not about persuasion or rhetoric. It's about reacting under pressure. It's about spatial awareness, muscle memory, pain tolerance, and instinctual decision-making when your life is on the line. Jennifer Walters has none of that. Unlike Bruce Banner, whose intellect alone makes him one of the most valuable minds on Earth, Jennifer's skills are narrowly specialized. Legal reasoning doesn't teach you how to move when attacked. It doesn't condition your body for impact. It doesn't prepare you to make split-second decisions under lethal threat. Law school doesn't train you for violence. And what makes this worse is how easily Jennifer acquires her powers and how little resistance she faces in mastering them. Bruce Banner spent years fighting his transformation, years struggling with control, fear, guilt, and consequence. Jennifer, she adapts almost immediately. No prolonged suffering, no trial by fire, no survival-driven evolution. She never needed to develop alternative skills because brute force solved everything for her. That lack of struggle matters a lot because struggle is what forces adaptation, and adaptation is what creates real heroes. One Reddit user put it bluntly, putting aside the whole woke argument for those annoying people, speaking for my own personal dislike of the show, I didn't really like the comedy, and I found the protagonist a bit unlikable. Not that I think it was the worst show ever or anything, just really didn't appeal to me. Without Gamma's strength, Jennifer Walters has no combat instincts, no physical conditioning, no understanding of how to absorb impact or minimize damage. In a real fight, she wouldn't know how to move, how to react, or how to survive. She wouldn't even know how to panic correctly. So when her powers are gone, She-Hulk doesn't become a weaker superhero. She becomes a bystander, and that's why she is, by far, the worst MCU hero without powers. Unlike She-Hulk, Captain Marvel, without powers, isn't helpless. Carol Danvers was a decorated U.S. Air Force pilot, an intelligence officer, a disciplined professional long before cosmic energy entered the picture. But that doesn't make her a superhero. Carol's placement as the second worst hero without powers comes down to one central flaw. Her identity is built on overwhelming superiority. Carol fights like someone who has never feared being physically outmatched. She charges forward, she absorbs hits, she overpowers enemies because she expects to. That works perfectly when you're invincible. Remove the cosmic energy, and those instincts become liabilities. Bravery alone doesn't win fights. Determination doesn't compensate for poor risk assessment. And Carol's combat instincts are shaped by invulnerability, not survival. She rushes into danger without caution. She intimidates instead of evaluating. She commits fully without understanding the cost. Where heroes like Hawkeye and Daredevil fight knowing they can die, Carol fights like death isn't even a consideration. Without powers, she isn't useless, she's average. And average doesn't survive long in a powerless MCU. Doctor Strange ranking this low might surprise you. After all, Stephen Strange is brilliant, a world-class surgeon, a master of mystic knowledge. A man who outwitted Dormammu using nothing but time and intellect. One fan summarized it perfectly. Strange had no special skills except high intellect and work ethic required to be a top-tier surgeon, and a deep motivation to perform. It's like saying Batman is a normal human. He is, kinda, but his determination and intelligence border on superpowers. But here's the problem. Intelligence doesn't equal survivability. Strange avoids physical confrontation whenever possible. He manipulates reality. He delays, distracts, and outthinks. None of that helps when magic is gone. Without the mystic arts, Stephen Strange has no combat training, no fighting experience, no conditioning, and worse, he still suffers from nerve damage in his hands. He might see the solution instantly, but be physically incapable of executing it. He would hesitate, misjudge his limits, hurt himself. Without magic, Doctor Strange becomes someone who understands danger perfectly and cannot survive it. Frank Castle doesn't need powers to be dangerous, and that's why he belongs on this list. Nothing changes for him. The Punisher never relied on spectacle or symbolism. He relies on preparation, brutality, and absolute commitment. Remove superhuman abilities from the MCU, and Frank Castle feels right at home. Frank is a product of real-world violence, military training, urban warfare, psychological endurance. He plans assuming he will be injured. He fights expecting resistance. That mindset makes him lethal, but he isn't perfect. As one fan explained, he's actually pretty good. It's just that he's not S-tier like Daredevil and Shang-Chi are, and is thus outclassed whenever he fights somebody like them in melee. He also would have lost against the Russian for the same reason, but he won fighting pragmatically instead of skill. Frank excels at efficiency, not elegance. Against agile, highly trained opponents, he can struggle if he loses control of the environment. Still, in a powerless world, Frank Castle becomes one of the most dangerous people alive. Hawkeye has always fought at a disadvantage, and that's exactly why he thrives without powers. Clint Barton has spent his entire career fighting gods, aliens, and super soldiers as a regular human. His effectiveness comes from awareness of space, movement, timing, and escape. Clint knows where to stand, when to move, when to disappear. He doesn't chase glory. He minimizes risk while maximizing impact. One fan put it simply, the guy is badass. He keeps up with powered people, and he has a good sense of humor about it. He's also extremely caring, good at recruiting, mentoring, as evident with Nat and Scarlet. Did I mention he's badass? Without powers, Clint loses nothing essential. Everyone else loses their safety net. That makes Hawkeye more dangerous than ever. Daredevil stands alone at the top because his powers were never the foundation of who he is. They were an enhancement, not a crutch. Matt Murdock's effectiveness comes from discipline, training, and pain tolerance. Long before his heightened senses mattered, Matt learned how to fight with his body. Matt understands balance, spacing, and rhythm at a level few characters ever reach. He controls engagements instead of reacting to them. And pain is his baseline. Daredevil fights injured more often than not. Where others panic when wounded, Matt adapts. What truly cements Daredevil as the strongest MCU hero without powers is his mindset. He doesn't expect fairness. He doesn't quit. He fights like survival is earned moment by moment. In a powerless MCU, Matt Murdock becomes the perfect predator. Not because he's the strongest, not because he's the fastest, but because he's the most complete. That's all for today. Which MCU superhero do you think is the best or worst without powers? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And while you're there, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to Silver Screen Hero for more Marvel and DC breakdowns just like this. We'll see you next time.